We now come to Both Sides Count, in which we invite two senior people from the water sector to present their case for or against a particular issue. You may recall that the key feature of this feature is that the debaters may actually be arguing for a position they don't personally agree with. Why? Well, we think it's increasingly important in today's polarised world that we can show there are two sides to most issues, and even if we ourselves hold a firm position, reasonable people can understand and comprehend the perspective from the other side. So for our second Both Sides Count debate, we have Martin Currie and Erik Driessen. The topic we asked them to give their viewpoint on is chlorine in tap water, life-saving hero or chemical villain? You can join in. If you click on the purple arrow on the right-hand side of your screen, you can open the chat box and click on the poll. In particular, if you want to share your own view or say whether your views changed after you've heard Martin and Erik, please add a comment. Otherwise, just relax and enjoy what they have to say.
I think we should embrace the biofilm for a few reasons. When you dose chlorine and you have a chlorine system, you get disinfection byproducts like 3-halomethanes and many other nasty chemicals. And as most of us know, these are carcinogenic. And having a system with these byproducts in our drinking water network, that's something that we should not want. Secondly, I think when we are chlorinating our system, that means that something is not okay, because we are fighting symptoms, we are fighting bacteria in our systems. And I believe we should fight the causes or the reasons why this is not in balance. How we do it in the Netherlands, we make sure that there are no nutrients in our tap water. So there's no biodegradable organics in the water. When there's no feed for the animals, they won't survive. So that's the direction that we take in the Netherlands. I think lastly, chlorine is not tasty. When a Dutch person goes to France, they buy bottled water. But I think in the Netherlands, we are one of the countries where we drink very little bottled water. So when you have an unchlorinated network, that stimulates drinking tap water, which is a good thing, I believe.
The World Health Organization recommends that, at the point of delivery, the minimum residual concentration of free chlorine should be 0.2 milligrams per litre. So chlorinated water is perfectly safe to drink. Personally, I'd much rather drink disinfection byproducts than drink pathogens. But that's not what this debate's really about, because either system, when designed and operated well, can deliver water that's free of both disinfection byproducts and pathogens. Disinfection byproducts are the product of a reaction between a disinfectant and organic matter. So there are two ways you can stop their formation. Not adding the disinfectant will clearly work, but you can also remove the organic matter. But if you're not adding a disinfectant, you'll need to remove the organics anyway to cut off the pathogen's food source and stop them from breeding in the network. Perhaps counterintuitively, the real beauty of residual chlorine is that contaminants rapidly consume it. So if chlorine's still detectable at the point of use, I'm happy.
So the biofilm in again the Netherlands and other Nordic countries, that's basically a whole system in balance. We have the biofilm in the inner side of the tube, and it sits there and it's stable. It's in balance with the water and the pipe wall, if you like. And we believe if there's not enough nutrients and organics for the bacteria to grow further, that's a balance that you want to maintain. And so it's a matter of making sure that you're not feeding more organics into the system or that organics are leaking into the system. So I believe when you have a distribution network and a water treatment at a certain level, it should not be needed to have residual chlorine in the system.
Even if you manage to completely eliminate leakage into the network, the best maintained network is still at the mercy of its customers. Cross connections can result in reverse flow into the network. Non-return valves can and often do fail. So at some point, you're going to have someone pumping pathogens into your network. The flow rates may be so small that there's no detectable pressure change, but those contaminants will use up your residual chlorine. So you know there's a problem when there's no chlorine. Without residual chlorine, you'll most likely find out when people get ill.
So actually, it's pretty obvious that an unchlorinated system is by far the best, because bottled water is horrific for the environment. Chlorine is not tasty at all, and we all want to have a balanced system, in balance with nature, in balance with the water quality. So I believe it's a very clear option. We all should want an unchlorinated system.
A single cigarette is unlikely to give you cancer. You also only need to worry about disinfection byproducts slightly exceeding the regulated concentrations if they do so for years. But without disinfection, you could be dead within a week from one of many pathogens. Which would you rather risk?
So, I mentioned at the start that part of the fun is that Erik and Martin might be arguing for a viewpoint that is the opposite of their personal opinion. We do this to emphasise that sensible thinking people can understand both sides of an issue. With this in mind, it's only fair to give them the chance to reveal to us all now what they really think.
Of course, we in the Netherlands and in the Nordics, we are in a comfortable situation because we are in colder climates, and our soil, our ground is always around 12, 13 degrees Celsius. And that's the reason why we can have an unchlorinated system, because in those cold temperatures, biofilms don't grow that much at all. I am concerned about climate change because we have seen in distribution networks, especially in the smaller bits at the end of the network, where we see the water temperatures rising in the past few years during the summer. So it's a big question whether we will be able to maintain this unchlorinated system. And I would not be surprised that even in the Netherlands, that in some point in time, we need to consider chlorination.
Yeah, I could happily argue either side of this debate. My grandparents had 3 taps at their kitchen sink. I loved the taste of the spring water from the 3rd tap. So if I could have appropriately treated water supplied through a network that didn't need chlorine, I'd jump at the chance. Just last week, the US EPA proposed a 4 nanogram per litre limit on these forever chemicals. Treating to that level will also remove pathogens food. And the public are getting increasingly concerned about chemicals in general. Combine that with the increased formation of disinfection byproducts and the increased chlorine decay at the higher temperatures we'll see with global warming, and I wonder if chlorine's days may be numbered. So, if anyone has a way of determining gross fecal contamination as effectively and affordably as residual chlorine, please do let Joe know. It'd make an amazing trial reservoir project.
Weren't they both brilliant? Thank you, Martin and Erik, for being absolutely excellent. Now, if you were watching that at home and thought, I want to do this too, then come on board, just get hold of Piers or me. And if that left you thinking that the decision whether to chlorinate or not is easy, then Martin apologises for oversimplifying things a little bit. There's an hour-long debate on this very topic taking place on the 4th of May, and we really hope you can join us. The details are on screen, and they're going into the chat box now.